the second largest company by revenue in the country, 8 lakh crores.
The most important thing is what we make, fueling. We fuel the nation. Today also Indian Oil is fueling more than 55% of the entire country's need. Have you ever been to a petrol pump which is dry? I don't think so.
And in India, it's so important for consumers to really experience something physical for them to understand.
How ubiquitous crude oil is in our daily life.
There was a study done whether we can live without crude oil, and the answer was yes, but you will be naked and you will be alone. We consume 300 million barrels per day. That is the importance of crude oil in our lives.
And what have you learned about the Indian consumer that you did not know when you entered this industry?
Linkage of how people get paid to the size of packs in India. Something like a lipstick, mobile phones will rapidly move online. The marginal cost of delivering a product to any pin code in India, it's roughly about 50 rupees. And that's for the most efficient retailers in India.
There is a saying in English, the Rolling Stones gather no moss. So you need to understand what is your DNA saying, whether you really want to have a domain expertise in whatever you do, or you want to be a jack of all. Crude oil does a business of $3 trillion every year. So that is the way the world moves on crude oil.
Where do I start with the introductions? It's going to be very tough to make or do justice with the introductions, but so how many of you know which is India's largest company by revenue? Reliance. That includes Petro, it includes Geo, it includes all of that. Which is India's second company by revenue? Yes, good. They know, right? Like the second largest company by revenue in the country is IOC. 8 lakh crores is the revenue. That's how large a business he's been running and he's been a part of for the last 30 years.
38 years.
38 years. It's even before LinkedIn. So even before LinkedIn existed. But I have lots of questions about that. We'll come to it. But that's literally the kind of experience he's at. 8 lakh crores of revenue annually. Right? Just think about it. It's 94th in the entire world in terms of revenue.
Fortune 500.
Fortune 100.
No, in that Fortune 500.
Fortune 500. Got it. And our second guest, how do I introduce him now? I have been an avid religious user of Nivea my entire life. My mom always thought that Nivea had these medicinal properties. And I don't know, I think it was Borolene versus Nivea in my home.
Hope we won all the time.
So Borolene was when there was like a injury and Nivea was daily use. So definitely more frequency of use was Nivea. But of course, you build that brand across various different countries. Again, Fortune 500 and all of that goes without saying. But I think today, what I want to capture is, two very different personalities. I've spent the last half an hour with them. Very different personalities, very different journeys. But there's something very common also to both of them. And I want to start with that, right? You have started at the lowest rung of the ladder in your respective organizations, right? And you've literally compounded your career over a period of time, 38 years, and so many for you as well. 29, almost 30. Right? And I want to understand, today's audience, today's Gen Z, Gen Alpha, whatever, we are always thinking, what is the next challenge? What is the next company? What is the next technology? What is the next leap I can make? But here you guys are, and you have persevered long-term, waited for your career to compound and reached at the helm, right? So I want to start with your first years as professionals, right? Just after college. What are some of the stories that come to your mind? Some fond memories of your respective first years in Indian Oil. We'll start with you.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for getting me here with a wonderful audience, young people. So I just tell you one thing. Recently, I'd been to IIT Roped for the convocation ceremony. And their same introduction was given 38 years. They said all of them fell down, They said, how can a person be in one company for 38 years? Here we get bored with the company for every 2 to 3 years. So I think that is the difference.
Absolutely.
So the point is, when I joined Indian Oil in 1985, Indian Oil was already a mega company then. Now it has grown many folds. But then in those days, it was still way ahead. There was no Reliance that time. There was no Reliance Petroleum. So we joined actually the first biggest company in the country. And that was a matter of big pride for us. That I've joined the biggest company. And the most important thing is what we make, fueling. We fuel the nation. So actually that particular aspect is something that is out of the world. You really feel, today also Indian Oil is fueling more than 55% of the entire country's need.
55%.
So that itself is such a noble task. We talk it among ourselves. And we have got a core value called nation first. So we are not a company. I say Indian Oil is an institution. An institution which fuels the country. And fuels it very, very silently. I mean, I don't think in your lifetime, you're all young people, have you ever been to a petrol pump which is dry? I don't think so. Now we are in a country where we open the tap and the water doesn't come, it's okay. If we switch on the light and the light doesn't come, it's okay. There's a generator there, everything. But petrol pump mein petrol nahi mila to tufan aa jayega. Right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And that is the reliability by which this oil sector works. And the ecosystem of the oil industry is such an immense ecosystem. Like India imports nearly 90% of its crude oil requirements. So there is one VLCC. VLCC means very large crude container, about 2 million barrels of crude oil. We unload daily either at Mundra, Kandla or Paradeep. Every day, one VLCC gets unloaded. And then it is transported to the refineries, 11 refineries. Petroleum products are refined, made, and then there is a 20,000 kilometer pipeline to take the products all across the country.
20,000 kilometers
of
refined oil.
Yes. And after that, we go to 100 plus depots and terminals. From there, 50,000 trucks take these products to every petrol pump. So it's a mammoth machine with so many moving parts. And it was always a pleasure to be part of this system. And that is what really made me stay in this company. I really admired this company, the way we work. The enormity of this organization is so huge. It actually binds you to it. Finally, it's not the money which keeps a company, which keeps an individual, an employee stuck to but the values of the company. I think as youngsters, I think that is a very important point. You should always join a company with values which align with your own values. See, in the early days, you may join for the package. That's fine, because that's the requirement of the early days. But whenever you decide to stick to an organization, please look at the values. Finally, those values have to align with your values, and only then working will be a pleasure.
So what was your first ever position?
Okay.
And which part of the
That's
country?
also a very interesting part. Indian Oil takes engineers in two categories. One is graduate engineer trainees, GETs,
GET.
and one is graduate apprentice engineer. So the year I got inducted, that year there were no GETs taken. GET means he's confirmed from day one. GAE is a government requirement, graduate apprentice engineer. We have to take a mandatorily some number of engineers, and we may or may not get, finalized in the company. So we are 1 year, and then we'll see whether the company confirms us or not. So most of the guys who joined with us, they said, यार 1 साल तो बर्बाद हो गया, अभी हम में से कोई चेयरमैन नहीं बनेगा, 1 साल तो चला गया ना हम लोग का. Before we started the journey, मतलब we are young people talking like that. I think 38 years पढ़ा है, but that 1 year made all the difference. They said ये बड़ा नुकसान हो गया भाई हम लोग का, GAE बन के आ गए. So that was the first bold, कि 1 साल भाई चला गया हमारा, 1 साल के बाद confirm होंगे. And then of course we got confirmed, but I joined in Gujarat refinery. We have a refinery in Baroda. And during the shift, we were in shifts in those days. I was in the training period, we were in the shifts. And shift duty is totally a different ballgame. Today, we don't find youngsters like you want to join shifts. They all want to run the plant on mobile. They feel the entire industry can run on mobile. It doesn't happen. You have to work in actual refinery because this is a manufacturing sector, please understand. And during that period of the night shift, we realized the enormity of the whole operation because there are hardly few people there in the night shift. And the entire investment is all there. You have to be the guardian of the investment for the next 8 hours. So that sense of responsibility, what we got in the night shift, that was something amazing. That was never taught to us in the classrooms. That was never taught to us in the slides or whatever. And nobody could explain that. Like there is an advertisement for cigarette Marlboro. That luxury like this cannot be explained. It has to be experienced. So same thing I will say, that the shift job, what you do in the night shift is something you have to experience. And that was the time I really fell in love with the company.
What was the machine that you were working on?
We were working on, it was a CRU, catalytic refining unit. So we had a high pressure compressor.
Got it.
So that was the way we really fell in love in with the company. And every component of the whole equipment was there for us to look after for the next 8 hours and hand it over to the next guy who's coming in the shift. So this entire concept of rotating shifts was so appealing for a young person like me. And for a chemical engineer, I'm a chemical engineer from NIT Rourkela, a refinery is a dream posting. Whatever you have learned in your 4 years is all there in the refinery. So I think that matched my passion, it matched my education background, and that's how I stuck to this company.
Yeah, so you did become chairman. What about you? Was Reckitt your first ever?
No, Procter & Gamble.
Procter & Gamble, right? What was your first year like?
So I'll just start by thanking all of you for your spending this time here. Thank you, Pratham, for inviting us over. It's an honor.
No, thank you for coming.
So I have my background. I have an MBA in marketing. I've actually got 2 MBAs. I started my MBA at SP Jain in Bombay. And out of campus, I got into Procter & Gamble. And I was a topper in class for marketing. And for me, I always wanted to be in a company that absolutely was the epitome of brand management. You know, P&G will hire you in either brand management, which is marketing, in sales, in market research, in supply chain, finance, or in some other function, HR. Yeah. So I decided when marketing, the dream job for us out of campus always was, and if you'd ask a lot of postgraduate students, it's still Procter & Gamble because they are the masters of marketing. That's slowly changing. So my first year after campus, I was put on a brand called Vicks. You all know Vicks, right? And Vicks had multiple brands. So you had Vicks Vapor Up, we had Vicks Action 500, you had Vicks Inhaler and Vicks Sinex, and some other new products that they were launching that time. So I was put on one of and we were 3 of us, and my first, my role was what we call as an assistant brand manager. Which is funny because when that time, the branch manager was a very popular term because most of the people used to work in banks. So when I go home and I say I'm working as an assistant brand manager, it was, oh, branch manager, very good job. So it's quite funny that nobody understood what branch was at that point in time. And I was managing 3 or 4 projects. One of them was a very interesting project, which is called Vicks Sinex. And Vicks Sinex, it died literally in the test market. It was basically a product that you spray into your nose. You must have seen Otrivin or Nacevion, that when you get a blocked nose, you actually put it into your ears. That was the predecessor, and P&G decided to change that and say, listen, let's make this whole thing convenient, and we'll launch that in a spray format. And you spray it into the thing, and it was called Vicks Sinex. And I was in charge of doing the test market for Vicks Sinex into the north and the west markets. That was my first job, along with managing Vicks Action 500 and Vicks Inhaler. And I was there at the shoots. We shot some great films. I was in Hyderabad with the factory, helping with the production, the labeling, the point of sale material, the sales conferences and everything. And 6 months later, the product absolutely bombed. Okay, absolutely bombed. We did the greatest job of launching this product.
Sorry, bomb means good or bad?
Bad.
Achha, bad, okay, because it can mean either, right?
No, it really was a failure to the extent that actually P&G exited the market for Vicks Sinex. And what we realized is that when you put your nasal drops like this, and when you put your head down, you actually see the drops coming out, right? So some of the thing comes out and you actually know, okay, there's something, okay, you can actually feel the nose. And in India, it's so important for consumers to really experience something physical for them to understand. So when you spray it, what is happening is you don't know whether the spray has gone in or not, okay?
Because you can't see it.
You can't see it.
You feel the air.
You put it into your nose and you spray it. And then you're saying, oh, have I used it? And then you spray it again. And then literally the product was getting over fairly quickly. And some people were not pressing it correctly, therefore no product was going in. And then we realized that, listen, a lot of people were trying the product, but eventually the repeat rates were so low that we had to kind of exit the market. So I really learned my failure in my first 6 months. The other one, I want to tell you, and this is India, right? In cold and flus, okay, it's a big category in India. In medication for cold and flus, you've got syrups, you've got tablets, you've got inhalers, you've got vapor up, you've got tons of products. But in India at that point in time, and still is the case, is that when you have a common cold, you cannot get a cure for a common cold. You know that, right? You cannot get a cure. All you can get is you get some relief from the symptoms. So whenever you go to a doctor and you have a common cold, all the doctor is recommending is stuff that relieves the symptoms on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and day 5. And literally by day 5, the common cold goes away. So in India, the adult market for cold is in such a way that the men especially want relief from the first symptom that you get on day 1 of your cold. And that typically is what? Is a headache. You typically get a sore throat and a headache, and that's how a common cold starts. So if you go to a chemist, if you go to a pharmacist, they'll ask you, "Arey, bukhar ke liye kuch hai kya?" Then they'll give you a headache tablet. And you pop the headache tablet, you get relief from the headache, but the common cold continues to remain for day 2, 3, and 4, and 5 because you don't have anything else. So P&G launched a product which had a headache ingredient, which was paracetamol, and then they add something called phenylephrine, which is basically an ingredient for improving your blocked nose. And if you remember, some of you may remember Virat Kohli ads, or if you remember some of the old Vagle Ke Duniya and some of these people, they'll always say, always don't use as a headache tablet, use something that's got a 2-in-1. So that's how this whole Vicks Action 500 product was actually launched, and it's a huge success. Even today, that brand Vicks Action 500 continues to grow because India continues to use a lot of your Dolos and your Crosins for just getting relief from cold. And it's a great, so these are 2 fantastic first-year projects that I managed. Have
That's
fond
awesome.
memories of that, 29 years ago.
I have so many questions. We'll come to that. So, I just can't wrap my head around 38 years, 39 years. That's too long. Were there times in the middle when you thought, "Yaar, ab to change kar lete hain"? I'm sure you would have gotten offers from Reliance, this, that. They're very famous for doing all of that kind of trading.
Poaching.
Poaching. But did you ever feel like slipping away?
To be very frank, not a day. I was not at all in any way getting lured by any organization. But there were many offers, but absolutely no. And after a certain time, people realized he's true IOCN. So even the offers didn't come. In fact, I made my first CV after I superannuated. I never even made a CV in my life.
Until this year.
Until this year. Now I have to tell what have I done. So that was my record. No CV also. I mean, that is the way it was. There was not an iota of doubt that I will never leave this company, this institution.
From the beginning.
From the beginning. From day
But what
one.
led to that? What was that, the value, I guess, as you mentioned earlier, that connected you so much to the company?
Yes. And secondly, what happens when, like people say 38 years, 39 years, it was not in one particular place. Indian Oil has got 11 refineries all across the country. And each refinery is a very complex animal. There are so many units within a refinery. Crude distillation unit, the secondary units, the treatment units. So when I say I was in Panipat refinery for 15 years, which is a fact I'm telling you, it was not in one place in Panipat refinery. It was in multiple units of Panipat refinery. It was in the petrochemical complex which came up. So actually the challenges were manifold, though the location on paper remains Panipat refinery.
Sure.
But within the refinery, the whole ecosystem is there, and you get moved in every 3-4 years within the refinery, within the ecosystem. That's where you get to understand the entire ecosystem of the oil refining industry. And then in 1996, I think, Indian Oil also entered into petrochemicals. Earlier, we were not allowed to enter into petrochemicals. We were late entrants because that time the government of India had this administered pricing mechanism, APM. I mean, none of you know that because you're all too young for that. In those days, every month, the petroleum prices used to be changed. कि crude इतना हो गया, 1 month एक बड़ा सा newspaper article होगा. So they were the days when the petroleum prices were controlled by the government. Now it is no more. Now it is free to the industry, to whatever the market is there, you do that. So in the APM mechanism, we were not allowed to go into petrochemicals. But then we were allowed to enter into petrochemicals. So we were a late entrant, unlike the other private companies. And then, of course, we realized that petrochemicals will be a buffer because crude oil, as you are aware, is highly volatile in nature. The price of crude oil, the price of petroleum products is changing every day. Though we are not changing them in India for the benefit of the consumers, but it is changing every day in the world. And the companies operate on a very wafer-thin margin. The margin in a petroleum refining is not much. Like if you say the turnover is about 9 lakh crores, my profit margin is only 3 to 4%. That's all.
Just 40,000 crores.
Just 40,000 crores. But for a turnover, it is nothing.
Course, yeah.
So my point is, on such a low profit margin, we need to have certain other products by which the price is not controlled, it is controlled by us. So that is petrochemicals. So that actually hedges the risk of the low margins in the petroleum products. That's why we entered into petrochemicals. And India is also a huge importer of petrochemicals, nearly 50 million tons every year. So I think there is a big margin there. And like one figure I always like to quote, that today the per capita plastic consumption in the country is about 8 to 9 kgs per person per year. The world average is 31 kgs per person per year. So we are way down, it will further increase. And plastics per se is not bad, let me tell you. It has been demonized. But the point is our way of disposal is bad. We need to responsibly dispose it. Then the plastics are good. They're actually our slaves. They shouldn't become our masters. But then the way we dispose, the way we create a pollution, that actually becomes a problem. And that's why plastic is being demonized. Like the fossil fuels is also being demonized now. So we'll talk about that later.
No, absolutely.
So that is the way I think the disposal part of it should come well. Like I'm very happy to tell, I was sharing with your team just now before lunch, that in Pune we have got a very good segregation, 3 types of segregation of the domestic waste. And I asked the people here, they said there is no segregation of waste in Gurgaon. I mean, this is absolutely unacceptable. Today, segregation of waste is such an important factor because it greatly helps in the process of recycling if you segregate your domestic waste. So I think this is the way the education should happen. And then I told the students there, okay, why don't you take up as a project for your college that we can start the segregation of waste. But then somebody said, but eventually the municipal companies, they mix it all. I said, you don't worry about that. At your end, let's do something. Let's make a change. And that one change can
behavior,
be behavior. So I think that is the way we have to go about it.
You mentioned you diversified into petrochemicals. Can you share how ubiquitous crude oil is in our daily life? What are the kind of products in which we don't assume that it's actually coming from that, including Vicks Vapor, I'm guessing?
Paraffin.
Paraffin, yes.
There was a study done that whether we can live without crude oil. And the answer was yes, but you will be naked and you will be alone. That is the importance of crude oil in our lives. We cannot wear anything and we cannot move anywhere. So naked and alone. So crude oil is everywhere, gentlemen. And today, as you said about petrochemicals and crude oil, the use of crude oil in petrochemicals is called the non-combusted use of crude oil. Normally, the petroleum products are combusted, they are burnt. But petrochemicals are the non-combusted part, and today about 25% of the crude, whatever we use, is about petrochemicals. And just to give an idea, since he has opened a box on which I can go on and on, today I can just give you the figures. You will realize how difficult and how much dependent we are on the fossil fuels. Can anybody guess? Okay, I'll tell you the answers. We consume every day, we in the sense, the entire world, 300 million barrels of crude oil equivalent. That is crude oil, gas, and coal. If I convert them all into crude oil equivalent, we consume 300 million barrels per day. And now what we are talking of is replacing everything and going green. So I think you should all realize that you can't wish away fossil fuels. Whatever you feel like, whatever your passion is there, whatever your ambition is there, but there has to be a realism in that. So 300 million barrels cannot be moved. And today the world is burning more crude oil, more gas, and more coal than ever before.
It's not decreasing.
It's not decreasing. Why? Because it is so convenient. It is so accessible and it is so cheap. Energy access, energy accessibility, energy affordability, and energy justice. They all three have to merge.
You've worked with Indian consumers, you've worked with consumers abroad. And I think part of brand management is to really understand the consumer's mindset. Like you mentioned about the Otrivan thing, right? And same in oil. I mean, a lot of your work is B2B, is what I understand. But still, you have to understand how the Indian consumer is, where they are, how they're thinking about these things. So from both of your experiences, I want to understand what have you learned about the Indian consumer that you did not know when you entered this industry?
So I'll start. So I came back to India in 2017, and the last 8 years I've managed 2 consumer goods companies. But one of the things that we do very well is that we go into the homes of people in India. Okay, so I've been to homes in Raipur, in Coimbatore, in Trivandrum, in Jalandhar, and we watch how they shop, how they eat, how they drink. I'll tell you some very, very interesting ones that we've learned. One is the linkage of how people get paid to the size of packs in India. So as you know, a large number of people in India, the daily workers, they get daily wages, right? 500 rupees, 700 rupees, 1000 rupees. There are people, if you're in construction, you probably get a weekly wage. Okay, you get at the end of the week, that's when you pick up something. And then many of you who will, your parents or your brothers and sisters, we get what we call as a monthly, salary and stuff. And then listen, if you're lucky, then at the end of the year, you might, let's say, get some added incentives on top of that. Now, this kind of phenomenon is not there in many parts of the world. And what this is spawned is basically, if you're a daily wage worker, you'll typically get a certain amount of money. And this person would typically take, if he gets 500 rupees or 200 rupees, he'll keep 100 rupees, he or she will give it to the family kitty. And the 100 rupees, they will go to the nearest shop and pick up what is needed for the day or the next day. You might find it surprising, but you often go to a tier 2, tier 3 town, they'll actually buy the cooking oil just for the night. They just buy rice for that particular day. They just buy the flour for that day. They just buy the vegetables for that day. And that's it. That 200 rupees will get you what is there. And what typically will happen is that if you're I've done this in many parts, but let's say I'll take Meerut as an example. If I go to Meerut, I went into a home, and then the lady of the house was telling me that she gets 200 rupees per day, and then she saves about 5-10 rupees out of this into a separate kitty, which she then actually will want to buy a skincare product. And what's a skincare product? It'll typically be a Pond's or a Vaseline or a Fair and Lovely. That's the smallest size. It'll typically be a 25 rupees or a 30 rupees. And that's a big thing. When you guys are buying a kajal stick for 1,000 rupees, right? A lady in Coimbatore is actually saved up 200 rupees just to buy something that she's always been yearning. Okay? And can anybody guess, if you go to a Meerut, where do you think a dabba about half of this size of Pond's, where do you think the Pond's cream is kept in the house? Can anybody tell me? Huh? Dressing table, no? Huh? Locker, you're close. It actually goes into the refrigerator.
What?
Yeah. Why the refrigerator? Because the refrigerator comes with a key, right? And comes with a key because what typically will happen is the kid will see the mother applying the Pond's, and when she's not looking, you'll suddenly find that the entire Pond's ka dabba has completely been taken out by the kid and put on the face. So to avoid small children from using creams, many a time you'll see skincare products are kept inside the refrigerator. Then you know who the other culprit is in Indian households who will come and take the cream? The fathers. Okay? So this mother or this woman has actually done research online, checked with friends, and they found out that this ingredient is great for my skin, and then has saved all this money and then bought this lovely cream ka dabba, and then goes there, and every day she will, you know how Indians use cream? With this one finger. Okay, they just take one little dab and they put on their face. Now what does Mr. Husband, Mr. Father come and do? His face is dry, he just had his shave. He'll take the full dabba, dirty hands, the whole thing goes onto the face. Okay, so mother is extremely unhappy. So the best thing that a woman does is either keep it in a locker or inside the refrigerator, big inside. And then you see, that's rural India, okay, and it's changing. But now you come to urban India. Okay, in urban India, you have the other extreme. You will have in a typical household, you will have a certain, let's say you have a bathroom for the guests to go, and let's say you have 2 other bathrooms. So let's say you have 3 bathrooms in the house. How many different hand washes do you think you will have in this household? Any guesses?
1.
Huh? 3 and versions of 3. Okay? So if it's the guest room, will always have the fanciest hand wash, because they want to show to the guests that, listen, you're using a very expensive hand wash in the house. But if you're in the place where the kids are using, what gets used?
Soap.
Half and half, right? You take out half the hand soap, pour water into that, because the kids will otherwise fill it up, use it all up. So that's why. That's the other insight that you'll find in urban India, where you've got many rooms, right? You'll have multiple products, but they don't get used. And then large packs. Like if you go to Punjab, or if you go to Chandigarh, if you go to Delhi, if you come in winter, you'll always find that the largest packs are always purchased. You'll always find the 500 ml, 600 ml large packs, because it gets cold and you have to use it regularly. But of course, when you come to the west, south, and parts of east, you'll find that it's always the medium and small packs. So listen, these are all things that you learn.
What about you, sir, in your dealings with so many customers, clients?
Okay, one thing that everybody wants is a cheaper product in the petroleum industry, okay? And reliability, of course. So because basically it's a commodity. Petroleum products is a commodity. So during my time, I thought, there are so many people with all these high-end cars. And all these high-end cars require high-octane petrol.
Correct.
The petrol available in the country is 91 octane. That is a standard. That's a BIS standard. So either I take from IOC, HPC, or BPC, it will be 91 octane. So I said, why not we have a high-octane petrol? And then we have a great R&D in Faridabad. Indian Oil's R&D at Faridabad that came up in 1972. And the trigger of that was the 1971 war, in which the government realized that we need to have our own R&D for the lubricants, because lubricants is an integral part of the defense, that is the tanks and aircrafts. And we were totally relying on the foreign countries till that time for research and development of lubes. Octane is that component of the petrol which really determines the quality of the petrol, how well it burns, because finally it goes in an internal combustion engine. And how well it burns is determined by the octane number. Higher the octane, it burns better. It explodes actually. There is a spark. I think you must be knowing of ICE engines, internal combustion engines. So petrol engines have got a spark plug. So that spark plug gives a spark and the petrol explodes in the combustion chamber, and that's how you get the power. In diesel, it is something else. It is compression ignition. In diesel, they compress the fuel so much because once you compress something, the temperature goes up, and that's how diesel burns. But petrol is something else. So I said, let's have a petrol which is much more in octane, and these guys came out with an octane of 100. Now in the refinery, we have got number of streams coming from various units. So we have to blend them in certain proportions to get the octane, and we could manage that in all my refineries. The best part was that. And that's how we launched XP, that is Extra Premium 100 Petrol.
Yeah,
it is still available.
Yeah.
Pratham, I hope you are using it. So that is costing about $170 a liter. The normal,
not using it. Yeah.
the normal one is about 100 pot. Yeah. That is 170. Then coming down to LPG, because LPG is the 14 crore customers we have got. I don't know whether you guys have seen it. We have got a new cylinder called composite cylinder. It's made of plastic. It's not metal. And you can actually see the level of LPG, whether it is half full like that. And it is made of plastic, very attractive colors. You can keep it on the ground. It doesn't stain the ground, otherwise the metal cylinders. And it's very light because it's... So that also we launched. It's a huge success.
Yeah, of course.
Composite cylinder. And the best part is only in the initial deposit we charge you a bit more. That is 500, which you easily spend in a Domino's in the evening. So we charge you extra for that deposit. LPG cost remains the same. Whatever is there in the normal cylinder is there in that. So that also one more type of innovation we could do. And it really did well. And finally, one big product what we made was, there's a fuel which is used in the drones and in the small engine aircraft. They are called, I forget the name.
LCA.
No, not light commercial. It is something else. It is the two-piston aircraft. It's a piston aircraft. They use a gasoline, which is aviation gasoline we call, which has an octane of 120. Now, this particular product is not high volumes because it is only used by the schools which train you in flying. But it's imported product. It's a niche product. And every time Indian Oil was the agency which used to import and is distributed in the country to all the flying schools. So once when that file had come to me, I just wrote there, this is the last time I'm signing. Let's make it in the refineries. Because I had full faith in the refineries. And you won't believe, within 6 months, we developed our own aviation gasoline, what we call it. And today we are not only supplying to India, supplying to all the Southeast Asian countries. So that's also one big awesome achievement what we did. And again, the strength, it was the strength of our R&D. And of course, our refineries. So they have to be only pushed. Had I discussed with them, they would have come out with a lot of problems. But when I said, the last file I am signing for imports, next month you have to do whatever you want, you do. And they did it.
How many of you invest in the stock market or follow the stock market? All of us, right? So then you should certainly track 3 things. One is the US interest rates. One is the price of crude oil globally. And the third one is price of bullion. Okay? Now, in the last 1 month, there's a lot of movements in Indian market. I'll just take one category of products and you'll see how all the 3 have a direct impact on some of the share prices of companies here. And that's really the US interest rate, and that's it. If you ever check that, because gold moves inversely, right? In terms of the interest rates fall, gold prices go up. Now, tell me if your interest rates fall down in India, which of the companies
just right
make a lot of money? Can you think of one category of traded stocks in India? Who makes the most amount of money when interest rates fall relative to gold in India? No, it's actually the gold financing companies. Okay? The gold financing companies. Because interest rates fall, gold prices go up. For the same gold that you have at home, you'll get a lot more money from the gold financing company. So a lot of people will end up taking their jewelry to gold financing companies and they'll get a higher amount of money against that. If you read in the last couple of days, you'll see that's happening. And then you'll see that the impact of gold prices have 2 different ways in which it, in fact, let's say a company like Titan, which has a lot of gold, versus somebody like a Kalyan Gold, right? So you're so rightly said, if you ever really want to absolutely get a good grip on the world economics, follow these 3 things: interest rates, gold prices, and crude oil prices.
They are KPIs, key performance indicators
of the world.
Of the world. And it shows also you're aware, no? When you are in a conversation, if you know the price of crude, I mean, it shows your awareness also.
So how much of, you said 90% of what we refine is imported, 10% is what we frack ourselves, we produce ourselves. Are we exploring more as a nation?
We are. See, our biggest find was in Mumbai High.
Right.
Nearly 70% of the crude that we discovered in 1974 in Bombay High, it still comes from there. After that, there has been no major find of any worth. Now, of course, government has also started exploring in Andamans and other places, but so far,
kuch mila nahi.
Of substantial value. And the price, I mean, the consumption is only going up, as I told you. Every year we are going up by 3.5%. So the imports are only going up. And nearly $160 billion of crude oil imports we do every year. So 35 to 40% of our total imports, whatever the bill is on crude oil. So that is why whatever you save is actually saving a very critical foreign exchange for the nation. So that's why it's so important for all of us.
I mean, it literally dictates the geopolitics of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. He's again drawing me into that. Crude oil does a business of $3 trillion every year. Kitna?
3 trillion, as much as India's economy. Yeah.
Simple. And that is the way the dominance of crude oil is there. So that is the way the world moves on crude oil.
Got it. Awesome. I want to open it up to questions from the audience. Oh, wow. Okay, already? That was quick.
Easy questions. Difficult ones go to ChatGPT.
Yeah, go ahead. Right in the middle.
Hello, sir. I'm Kunal this side. Building a startup in automobile industry. So since petroleum and automobile industry go side by side, I want your insights on the future of automobiles and also the E20 case that recently rose up.
Future of automobiles in what sense you're saying? About the EV versus ICE engines or what?
Kind of.
Okay. So, the electric vehicles is going on increase. The growth rate is there. But please understand, I think you should understand the nuances of this. An electric vehicle is actually no tailpipe emission. That is what an electric vehicle means. And it uses electricity to charge the battery. In India, today 75% of the electricity comes from coal. From coal-fired plants, it is coming to the grid, and from the grid you're charging. So technically, you're not really helping the planet Earth by going for electric vehicles in India today. As the grid becomes more and more green, maybe it will happen that way. So that also you should understand, because in my way of putting it, today EV, electric vehicle, means emissions elsewhere. You're emitting elsewhere in a coal-fired power plant, but your tailpipe emission is zero. So please understand this nuance. And 50% of that cost is battery in an electric vehicle. So that battery today has no way of proper disposal as on date.
Yeah.
And the recycling also is not very established at this point of time.
And the rare earth that you need for it
That
is
shortage
also...
of rare earths is something, they say that cobalt and nickel will be the new oil afterwards, because very few countries produce it.
So I guess I'll extend this question. So do you think in India, we'll see the same kind of excitement for electric vehicles as, let's say, in China or in the US?
See, why China is doing, let me give you an answer like that. See, China also, like India, has got a huge import of crude oil and natural gas, RLNG. Now, as a strategy for the country, as energy sovereignty, because energy sovereignty means being self-dependent on energy, they started using more and more coal. Today, there is, every other day, the coal-fired power plant is coming in China. So they went for more and more coal, and they made more and more electric vehicles. And their purpose was to reduce the dependence of crude oil imports. That was the China's intent. So that is how they went for. In the bargain, planet Earth is also getting saved, because they are also scaling up their the solar plants and electric like never before. The plants that have come up in China, renewable, is also immense. So they have gone with a different mission. Now we are now in a different mission. We are not having that much of electricity at this point of time, which is coming from solar and wind. 75% comes still from coal. So I think it's not really green as such. E20, see, I don't know, there's too much of noise about E20. E20 is an established system actually globally. Brazil has got E20 means 20% ethanol, 80% gasoline. Brazil has got 27% gasoline, ethanol, balance is gasoline. They even have E100, Brazil. So I think there is no issue on that. It's a proven thing. There is nothing that we are discovering something new. It's a proven thing. It's helping the climate, because ethanol is a byproduct of sugarcane and grains. So it's a green fuel, and it is also helping the climate. Regarding the negativity, there is a power debit. Slightly there is a debit of power, say 5 to 6%. But otherwise, it's perfectly fine. It's proven.
Good evening, sir. My name is Gayatri. Actually, being in the industry for so long, I would love to understand from your end, according to the shifts in generation, we have a mindset of quick commerce, e-commerce, and earning profits. So what should be the factors that we should consider while we think about our entrepreneurship and business, whether to choose e-commerce or slow and sustainable growth and business which are in the field of, say, for example, energies? So I would love to understand the factors which we should consider for the comparison while we make a choice.
I didn't get your question.
I didn't get it.
If you can.
I think what she's trying to ask is, there are two options right now in front of the students, right? One is to go after, let's say, the more sexy startups, right, which is quick commerce or e-commerce, etc., right, where you can have quick valuation growths, etc. And then there's the other side, which is sort of more slow-moving, compounding, for example, energy, for example, FMCG, not D2C, I guess. So I think how should one decide what to do, really?
I will start this answer because I've worked in the consumer goods sector quite a bit, and we've seen the experience of. So first of all, guys, please start with understanding something called shoppers. Yeah. To understand is where do people shop from, and every category, every subcategory has its own dynamic as to where people can shop from. So in the consumer goods sector, we have shoppers will typically shop from a general trade or a kirana. They can shop from a chemist or a pharmacy. They can go to a modern retailer like a Reliance or a D-Mart or a Spencer's. Or they can go to a regular e-commerce, or they can go to quick commerce, or they can go to D2C. So you've got the entire spectrum available for consumers to shop from. So it's got nothing to do with who is doing more. It's about where do people shop from. In some cases, the acceleration of the shopping from a regular unorganized sector like kiranas to quick commerce can be fairly rapid. And those categories are where your size is small, okay, and your relative value of each individual product or the size of the product is very high. So typically something like a lipstick, something like a battery, something like condoms, something like some of the more expensive perfumes, mobile phones, right, will rapidly move, or books will rapidly move online, because the economics of it tells you that you can actually pack a lot of value into small packages and you can make money. And why is that important? In India, the marginal cost of delivering by Amazon, and Amazon, if you ask me, was one of the best in terms of the margin economics. The marginal cost of delivering a product to any pin code in India was 35 rupees. It's roughly about 50 rupees. And that's for the most efficient retailers in India. So if your cost of delivering one product is 50 rupees, you need to at least make profits of 50 rupees
at the minimum.
At the minimum from a package. So let's say a kajal stick is a great product for quick commerce, because a kajal stick, a L'Oreal kajal stick, will cost 1,000 rupees. It's literally, is as big as this, right? As big as this. It can be shipped along with a lot of other products at very, very low. Mobile phones. Can you imagine a 1 lakh rupee iPhone 17 can be shipped at the lowest cost to any pin code in India? Okay, so you must remember that in categories where this economics, so cement, for instance, will never work. Cement is bulk items. You can never get that into e-commerce, because a 50 kilogram cement pack will at best cost you like 150 rupees, and there's no margin in that. So cement, for instance, in my opinion, and I may be wrong, at no point in time will ever go online to online commerce. Something like oil, you know better, but it'll never go online simply because it's not allowed, right? You cannot order a bottle of maybe a lubricant. Probably you can lubricants, yes. You can buy online. So the question therefore you need to ask is, listen, which of the categories has the highest chance of disrupting an existing model and moving faster, right? And that should be a most important question to ask. Now, the second question is, where should I take a career? Now, because the ones that are the newest will have the fastest growth rates, you will always see that will always be the sexiest side of any startup economy. So when Zomato came with, when Blinkit came with, home delivery, when they moved into groceries, it was a very, very attractive option, because they were going and disrupting a very, very large category, and you were easily able to grow 2x, 3x, 5x rapidly. And therefore the valuations will follow. If you go and start a Kirana store startup, listen, this is highly unlikely that you will only get a good valuation because after year one growth, your organic growth will be very poor.
I'm Yuvraj from the UG batch of 29, and my question is actually for you, Shrikant sir. So Pratham sir mentioned that you've been at one job at one company for 38 years, right? And just to put that into perspective, most of us here are like 18, 19. So we haven't even been alive for half the time you've been working at this one company for, right? So my question is that a lot of us here want to try everything, every business model, every company, this, that, at the same time, right? So how do we bring in that sort of single-mindedness, that sort of discipline, and stick to one thing to see it through?
Okay, there is a saying in English, the Rolling Stones gather no moss. Have you heard? If you have not heard, let me tell you that. If you are rolling, if you are just going on rolling, you will gather no moss. And if you want to maintain a domain expertise, see, you can be a jack of all. By 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, if you go on switching, you will not get an expertise of domain. So once you are in a place for, say, a few decades, then you become a domain expert. I mean, you can be an authority in whatever you talk. You need not retire as chairman. Even people retiring at the lower levels, but they have been in the company for, they have that domain expertise. So you need to understand what is your DNA saying that. Whether you really want to have a domain expertise in whatever you do, or you want to be a jack of all. It's up to you. So you decide, it's your call what to do. But eventually, let me tell you, at some point of time, you would like to have stability in your life. This honeymooning and going flirting with jobs may happen for some time. You may flirt for some years, some like 1 or 2 decades, but eventually, once you are deep in the family business, they would like you to hang on and build a life of stability. So that's where you take a call. What have you to do? Whether you want to be around a flash boy, all around, but whether you want to have stability in your life. So that's up to you, and if you will get domain expertise, you will be an expert in the business if you stick to one company. So it's your call. How are you made up?
Just to add to that, the current crop of CEOs, you must have seen a lot of Indian CEOs now becoming top of the league in large corporations, right? Shailesh Jejurikar, who's just become the CEO of P&G, 36 years in P&G. He's been an ex-colleague of mine. So please remember, if you look at the history of senior leadership, and sir is a great example, if you want to, it absolutely matters that you are an industry expert, and even more, the people who really rise to the top are the people who've shown their commitment over the longest periods of time. So if you really want to really get to the top, I would say stick to the industry, stick to a corporation, and choose the corporations wisely. That's very, very important. Yeah.
So both of you have taken some time off, and so you're also probably getting into your next chapter. So I would request if we can get more of your time, because these questions will not finish, even if we are here till 7, 8
Absolutely,
PM.
absolutely.
Right? So I request, first of all, a commitment that you will come back.
100%.
I will.
Number one. And number two, also perhaps explore teaching a full course with us. Right? As you know, many of our professors are practitioners, and we would love for you to come and teach. This was an incredibly deep discussion. I learned a lot, and I'm sure kids don't have any attention span these days, but this audience and with you here, honestly, I think we all had a great time. Thank you so much for this.
No, but I would like to just
Please, sir.
address them. Since I have an audience, captive audience, I should better use it. You're going to pass out in how many years? 2 years? 4 years. Just you have joined. So when you join an industry, what the industry looks for is skill and will. Okay. Now when you have a company of any size, it can be a small company, a big company, the top 10% or 15% are the stars of the company. They do 60 to 80% of the work of the company. They have the skill, they have the will. Then there is a certain group of people, the employees, who have the skill, but they don't have the will. Then there is so they're not engaged with the company. So you have to get them engaged in the company. Then there is one more group which has the will, but doesn't have the skill. So you have to train them. And eventually the fourth group is the most toxic group, which is they neither have the will nor the skill. And they bring down the productivity of the company totally. Even one person in a group which is performing, one toxic guy who doesn't have the will and the skill can bring down the entire productivity of the team. So you people are just entering now college, 4 years you will be out. You decide where you want to be. You need to have the will and the skill. Skill will not come overnight, because when you join an industry, you are new to the industry. And you will be actually made to work for it. You have to develop the skill. And you have to be very, very focused in your mind that what you have to do, what you have not to do. And let me tell you, you can't be the guy who knows everything. When you join a new industry, you can't show I know everything because you don't know everything. You have to be vulnerable. Please understand that. Only a vulnerable guy will get feedback from others. People will help you to understand if you show some vulnerability. Don't try to show I know everything. So be vulnerable, try to learn. People are there to help you out and ask for help. Asking for help is a strength, it's not a weakness. So please try to develop that will and the skill, and you will remain in the top 15% bracket of whichever company you join. And finally, my parting words is, you have all heard of water boiling point, how much it is? In Fahrenheit, 212 up to 211. What is water? It's hot water. 1 degree more, just 1 degree more, and water changes. It can become steam, it can drive a locomotive. So my appeal to all you youngsters is, don't remain hot. Your life is one, just boil. Just go for it. Become steam, and you can drive the nation, you can drive your own career, and nothing can stop you. But don't remain hot, please. Just boil, okay?
All right, nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. And my parting advice to you, not parting because I promised that I'll come back. This I promise that I'll do it this year. I'm going to sign up with the team later. So something that I learned during my years in my career, and in about 3 or 4 years you'll start in your first job. Sometimes many of you will start your own companies, some of you will join corporations, and eventually it'll get to something. So I wrote a book back in 2017, I self-published it, and it was the story of these 6 interns in a large corporation, the very first year of these 6 interns. And it's a comic. It's a 128-page comic book which showcases the life of these 6 interns when they start in their career. And when you start in the career, I look back at my own career and I realize that you always start with these really nice bunny rabbits, these nice teddy bears. You are naive, you're fresh, you're full of ideas, you're soft. And then as you go and you grow up in organizations, it becomes darker. It becomes darker, and many a time, I'm not saying always, many a time, you become darker and darker till the end, to the time that you actually become a beast. Because you're not naive anymore, you're the lordship, you want to rule over everybody, you want people to suck up to you, you want to take the shortcuts. And I realized that along the journey that, listen, when I was kind of getting that, that's when I wrote the book. My hope to all of you, is that please, as you continue to grow in your career, continue to have the same kind of enthusiasm, the same kind of questions that you have today, the same kind of energy as you have in day one. If you do that all through, and a learning mind, okay, that's so critical. You talked about skills, right? And you can only have skill sets when you're at 38 years of finishing your career, when you have the same learning mind when you're in your first year of your career. So unless you have this, I can promise you will always grow from a nice bunny into what I call is a perfect beast. My hope for all of you is that all of you will remain these wonderful bunnies right from your day one till you retire at a company. Thank you.
Awesome. On that note, thank you once again, guys. I really appreciate your patience. And 2 hours they sat through.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's been 2 hours since we started almost. And no, but genuinely, this was amazing. Best highlight of my week. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.